hello, and welcome back to another episode of Let We Hear from Doc. I'm your host, Amanda Japal, and with me is Dr. the Right Honorable Claudius Mitchell. So, Dr. Mitchell, you're looking sharp this morning. How are you doing?
I'm always looking sharp. And I'm clearly again looking forward to a session. I miss it. So whenever we come together, I enjoy these sessions. I look forward to it.
So let's dive right into it. Um, we have a lot of important topics today, such as the national health insurance. So, Doc, there was a tangible move towards a national health insurance under your leadership with the establishment of a secretariat in 2018 and the support of UE and hiring of GIPA to do the work. But the government has since fired GIPA. How critical is the national health insurance to the success and accessibility of that?
Well, first of all, I'm not surprised that the government has got rid of cheaper, simply because everything NMP does, this government wants to get rid of it, whether it's good for the country or not. As long as they could do so, they will. And the others, they want to continue to take credit for it and try to pretend it's theirs. But going back to this whole question of it is well known that people's health care is always a number one issue facing every single country and every single government in the Caribbean and regionally and internationally. And the generally accepted view is that, in our capitalist society, the tendency is those who are able to pay for health insurance privately and otherwise, and who have jobs that covers them adequately and so on, are the ones to be covered, and that the poorer persons or the persons less capable are left to literally wonder for themselves about their own life, and that the governments have a responsibility. And that's always been a challenge. And therefore, we looking at this issue and recognizing NNP's care for the ordinary people, we decided that we needed to have a national health insurance program. And that was, in fact, also advised by a reputable organization that has a clear understanding of the health care of the country and what is necessary to protect the people in a general sense, for their health in the country as a whole. So that's why we initiated this and was prepared to invest heavily. And clearly the government, the people would have to make some form of contribution. And those who are not able to pay should be covered by the government. And we thought that someone should not fail to receive the proper care for their life because they do not have money. And we believe any society that does not want to look into that issue is failing the responsibility to protect the vulnerable in the society. And that's why we saw to it that was an initiative and an expenditure that we had to undergo. But this government obviously seemed not to understand the necessity for this, and they seem to have one thing that is coming out clear from all the actions of this government since they came in. They seem to have very little care for the poor and vulnerable, who happens to always be the vast majority of people in the country. And therefore, you've seen it in all the actions. And so it doesn't surprise me. That's just another action in that particular vein of lack of interest in the care of the poor and vulnerable in our society. And therefore, we, as I said, we're not surprised. But at the same point, we're making it clear. Look at what the government is talking about. They want you to believe that you're building a new, state-of-the-art hospital with some foreign entity that can solve our problems. It's a foreign entity in another country where the healthcare is also in major problems. But they would come and solve our problem. And this new building, with new equipment, new everything. And I hasten to add, uh, for one not to understand, this is part of the deceit of this present government. Who want you to believe that this massive structure is going to solve your health care in the country. And we know, and I know, historically speaking, that's not the way to go. But you get a hospital funded by some foreign agency, take it. But that to concentrate on that as the main source of the solving the healthcare system in our country is a fallacy. I remember when we were looking at this whole healthcare system early in my period of service, we knew, and it is well known, that Cuba was identified as a country that has done the best worldwide in taking care of the most of the citizens in the country, if not all of the citizens in the country, the health care of those citizens. So I personally took a visit to Cuba with the help of the president then, Fidel Castro, and did a tour of Cuba, and to have to see for myself what Cuba was doing that was given this acclaim internationally by the World Health Organization and other international organizations as the best country in dealing with healthcare of the citizens of their country. And I found out that in many of the areas we went, there were small facilities, no big infrastructure, but they had all the equipment. They had the trained doctors, the trained nurses. They had a support system in place. Everything was in place, and all basic medication. Despite the blockade against Cuba to receive cheaper medicines from all over the world as they could, they were able to have every single basic medication that is useful for saving the lives of the people that was there, and so on. So you realize they did have a major hospital, but the polyclinics around the country was the main server of services for the people of the country. So in effect, that you had very few. The only time you have to go to the major hospital is when you're doing a major health service that is required, maybe a major operation, an heart and other services. That was the main reason when extreme situation occurred. But most people are treated at the polyclinic, and therefore it saved the central hospital away from the extensive amount of persons that visit there and be treated for basic things that could be treated elsewhere, and so on. So it is clear that this government is continuing on its policy of deceit. They came into government on deceit, telling lies to the people and making all sorts of promises, and they continue to make promises to people and making people believe that the solution to the problem is some big fancy idea out of this world. So vote for me again because I will bring a major hospital to solve all your health care. That's the catch, That is the whole interest of this thing. And you could hear it because that is the election, might be in a year and a half, or 6 months, whatever time. So now is the time. Just vote for me and I'm solve all your healthcare problems in the country by these new facilities that we're going to bring. You don't know how it's coming, when it's coming, who is paying for it.
Dr. Michelle, prior to this conversation, you mentioned the government taking credit. So I want to ask you, there's been criticism that the current administration is running on NNP's fuel. What's your response to that? Because we've seen that the new airport terminal and runway expansions are all NNP projects. So are you concerned that the current leadership is actually taking the credit for what NNP?
Well, no, I think the main thing, Amanda, is this current administration exists on deceit. That's the fundamental issue. So everything you see them do, look for the deceitful component of it. That's the fundamental issue. So it's not surprising that everything that appears to work and looks good and that they have to ride on it because they could not get rid of the project. It was an internationally funded project that we in the NMP negotiated with the Chinese government and so on. So they couldn't get rid of this. So therefore they have to now turn around and take credit for it when in fact they knew nothing. The sacrifices that were made, our travel to China, and nail down that important serious loan to be able to bring this major development and transformation to the country. The least they could have done is to give the NMP credit for this major initiative. But that is true to form. Every other project, take for example, we had a Moncuna Road that is was helping to come from Grenville through St. George's, so that in case you have any problem on the coming down on the western side, through Molyneux and so on, like you did have, that you don't have a one-way block for traffic in the country. So we decided that we wanted to. This project was completed, literally completed, before the NDC took office. We just did not open it. They went and opened it and was bold-faced enough, true to form again, deceitful again, and took credit for delivering a major construction project to the country. But that's the nature of the beast called NDC. They can't help it. That is how they operate, and nothing else will change this. But I think it's important to continue to recognize this. And all the other projects that we have had initiated and worked well under the NMP, they have attempted the road projects that in fact what they should have done is apologize to the country for losing the 40-something million US dollars project that the British government had given for the Western Main Road. And they come around and messed it up and were blaming the NNP why we lost the project. We negotiated something. We were able to get the grant support from the British government. The service that we had done, we had COVID-19 came around, and therefore that slowed up the initiative of the project. The British government understood that was not off it. When you come into government, and the project was on, studies were being done and everything, and you did not meet some of the timelines, so you lost that major funding initiative. So you have to be patching the work on the road and the Western Main Road coming down, and many other initiatives that we had taking care of the possible damage to citizens with the stones on the western side. All this would have been part of the project, protecting the sides of the on the cliffs going forward, going that area. You lost that project, and bold-faced enough to say it's NMP after almost a year in government. Just NMP lost the project. So that they take no responsibility for anything that they failed to do, and to want to take credit for everything that they have continued, which has been our project. They cannot point to one serious major initiative with all the monies that we left them. And they boasted $500 million. They boasted that the treasury was pregnant. And when we got in the government, the treasury was totally empty, right? And so we had to do a lot of work to make sure we get pregnancy of the treasury. And they came in the right time and benefited from the pregnancy of the treasury. And we initiated the whole CBI program, which they criticized when they came around and were not even careful. It was selling passport like hot bread and butter and so on. And they're raising over $1 billion. So they have all that money. And then we invested in CREF. So they lit, and again they benefited again. They were lucky, everything fall in the pot, so to speak. But with all that money, they got $118 million of a couple of weeks after burial. And all this money. So sitting there with him when we had nothing, but we had to build something. And we took care of the country and provided jobs, provided economic activity, got serious development going in the country. So they messed up in every sense of the word. They couldn't even take a good thing and build on it to be successful. In fact, what everyone is saying, they have literally crashed everything this country had in place when the new National Party was in office.
Dr. Mitchell, you spoke a book because as my dad always say, anybody can run a country or a business when it has cash. But it seems like though they're running the country to the ground rather than they run that up. And also it speaks volumes on the competency of these people, you know?
The incompetence.
Yeah. So I'm sitting here and I'm trying to think. I'm trying because it's it's hard when you're on the outside and you're looking in. You always think, "Oh, I can do this, I can do that," and then you get in, and then you realize that there are certain things that you have to change and that you cannot accomplish, and you should be man enough to come out and say, "Hey, I made this statement here, but we cannot achieve that." Yeah.
Well,
And so you're not only seeing the incompetence of them, you're seeing the lack of respect for the Grenadian people.
yeah, yes.
You're also seeing that as well.
Well, I think that's key. And remember, they came in on deceit.
Mhm.
They came in on lies, the bold-faced lies, and they want to govern on deceit and lies, and they want to win election again on deceit and lies. The Grenadian people have something coming for them.
Mm. You mentioned that road, and that led me to think about the Debushing program again. I think it's one of the most critical things that we have right now. There's a lot of talks all over the place right now about the absence of it. So the absence of this consistent debushing program on the NMP is becoming a national issue now. What are the health and safety implications?
No, well, the devotion program and its form that we had it, as maybe you could say 3 components to it. Clearly, it has a serious economic component. Secondly, it had a serious health component. And it's a security issue also for the citizens of the country. So let's deal with economic. If you in your country had a situation where you had jobs for all sectors of the country, and that you had the poor people properly engaged in opportunities which you do not have, and it will take some time before we achieve such, then it means that you must be able to create opportunity where people can have basic income. Now, one may say that in the devotion program, you could construct the program with more technologically advanced component and have one person with with an equipment clean it. But you also have a situation where you have people unemployed. So you give them an opportunity, make a contribution to the society on some income. And the thing about people at that level, when we have 6,000 people on the road for several fortnights, throughout several periods of the year, what you saw was the economic spin-off. These people were in the community shops, they were in the stores, they were in the supermarkets, they were on the buses, they were all over the country. So every people at different levels benefited from that level of economic activity. Because one thing about people at a lower level income in the country, when they have work and money, they spend it. Those of us who have bigger jobs and opportunities, when we have money, not all of us take it and go and spend it in the store here in Grenada. Some of us will travel and buy stuff abroad. And that's a fact. I made a statement sometime and people were criticizing me for that. You want to criticize what's factual? Tell me that those of you that are earning $6,000 and $7,000 and $8,000 a month, whether you don't go to Miami or some New York and buy shirts and so on. Do you buy the shirts here? they go to the supermarket and buy in New York and send barrels of stuff. You do it. The poor man spends it every cent on the country. So people benefit. The money spread around the country. And you can't say you don't admit that. And that's why you see the country buzzing. When there is a little social activity, you see people all over the streets in shops and doing things. Everybody benefit. They can't understand that basic thing. Now, the health component of it. The bushes, look at what's happening. As you drive around, the drains are blocked. The streets are blocked. Right? Rain falls, water develops, mosquitoes, cells are generated. The health of the population is involved. So you can't get away from that. So you're talking economic and you're talking health. And therefore, it makes a lot of sense. And these people providing an opportunity that are very useful. Then you're talking about when you're going around some corners driving, as a driver, you don't know whether the road is here or whether it's bushes. So the opportunity for accidents and another form of danger to the public is increased enormously. So here's the security aspect of it. So the lack of economic opportunity that this brings, not having a program of this nature. But I don't think they care about poor people, as I mentioned. I think that's a fundamental. Because they did criticize it. They criticize the NNP only talking about poor people. Because we have poor people. And those of us come from poor people. Some of them come from poor people and they don't want to be identified with poor people. They want only to be with a big man who has a lot of money, whether they come from Nigeria, Lumumba, wherever they come from. That's what we want, because we want to show that we are big friends. But I'm always happy to be the ordinary man, because you know something about them? Their sincerity is always there. And you know when you're lifting people up, it makes you feel better as a Christian. Those who have, and if you help them based on your economic plans and policy, which you should have, because they have a right to move forward. But it doesn't make you feel as good when you help the man who is down here and he comes up. That's life. And if one doesn't understand this in politics, that means you really don't care about people. So I mentioned this for what it's worth, that in the context where we are now, in the social situation and the problems that we are facing, the Debushing program is a key problem, and it will be helping to deal with three aspects: the economic aspect, which is, I mentioned, crucial, the security aspect, and clearly the health aspect. All of this.
You mentioned that pregnant treasury, right? It's something that
You like that word, pregnancy?
yes, oh my. So it's funny that we have a pregnant treasury. However, we're still hearing reports that indicates that government suppliers aren't being paid. So what message does this send to the business community?
Well, clearly the government, the resources that we have has been mismanaged. You heard of all the stories of corrupt practices. Everybody seems to be trying to fill their pockets. That's the perception out there. And if it's not real, then the government need to have a serious job to do, because you talk to almost every man in the street and they'll tell you all the guys doing is filling their pockets. That's a serious issue. And they have several instances where they can point out, because guys, when they in the communities, are showing off that the wealth that they have, when people knew that they couldn't buy a sweetie before they got into government. And that is the problem, that people watch that what they see around them go in the country at this particular time. So you have a serious issue of where people don't feel that the monies that are available is being spent appropriately. By the way, I take me off a little bit on that question. Remind me of you have to get back to where you repeat that.
What message does this send to the business community?
Yes, good. Now, it's important, because it is unfair to an individual, given this point that you're making, that you provide a service for the government. Now, there are a big businessman or big contractor who might provide a service to you and has this type of organization that it is enough float or overdraft, they can deal with this within a certain time limit until they get paid for a particular service. And that's a broad means of service I'm talking about. But there are a lot of ordinary contractors or service providers who provide service to you who live almost on a month-to-month basis. When you contract them or when you use their service, they have people, workers to pay, or uh, uh, or, or things that they have to meet, commitments that they have to meet. And these people also depend on being paid on time. So when they don't get it, the headaches are enormous, and it causes major problem for those persons. So I know contractors. In some cases, if you want to be able to spread the bread, so to speak, you almost have to give them an advance, assuming that you trust their service and their commitment to do what they say they're going to do, for them to be able to take on contracted work. And we used to do that in some cases and so on. But to take a person who is dependent on that level of that consistency of payment, give him a contract, which is good, but not pay him on time, poses a major fundamental problem. And that so many people are complaining that that government owes them money and will not pay them. And they're telling you, I don't know, that in some people are being paid millions of dollars before they even start a contract. But clearly, based on connection, that's the perception. Or I'm not saying it's necessarily true, but that's the perception. Because I always, but be careful of what I say, because I get things from people, and so I repeat it for what it's worth, not taking responsibility for it.
Well, you hear often that in politics, perception is
Is
sometimes
reality.
yeah.
Oh yes, of course, of course.
Um, moving away, youth unemployment, mental health struggles, and crime are really, really rising. And under your leadership, you had programs designed for all of this youth entrepreneurship, employment, the whole works. But where are they now? Are you seeing enough
No, all
programs?
the
Or
programs have been literally, basically, we have major problems with them. Either they have not expanded the program, in some places cut some, and left a lot of the youths literally feeling abandoned. I go around the country and I meet young people in my own constituency and outside of that. And I notice one thing: the young girls are all at home. They come to me, and they come to people that tell me about their contact with those young people, and they tell them they're not doing anything. Now, that's a dangerous thing to have young girls doing nothing, and everybody wants to have some material things, or to take care of the basic needs. Some of them feel old enough; they don't want to have to depend on their mothers and father, and in fact, in some cases, they don't. The mothers and father are not able to help them. So what will they do to earn a livelihood? You are really creating an environment where you make people frustrated and can do anything to protect to get something for themselves. And that's a dangerous situation. You have the young men, I meet them in the blocks in all where you go now, you see young men on the blocks. What they're doing is gambling. I see groups of young men. When you check it, they gambling. That is a dangerous situation. You cannot have this. You're building a cesspit of problems in the future for your country. To have this situation prevailing where young people watching persons in the society spending money and living nice, and they're struggling, and they know in some cases they voted for them, and they voted thinking that they were needed change and they would get more improvement than they had under the New National Party, and are bitterly disappointed. This is a frustrating exercise, and the government need to come to terms fast, because you're preparing a situation where you can have more problems related to drug activities in the country, social problems, mental health problems, in the country as a whole. And this is a sad situation that the government need to come to terms with and address as quickly as possible.
Dr. Mitchell, we're about to wrap up, right? And so, in your opinion, is Grenada's political culture ready for a serious shift away from two party dominance?
Well, it is clear there's been historical initiative in Grenada and in the Caribbean for a third party. In all of those cases, it has gone to naught. They have not survived. So it was tried before, way back in the 50s, the 60s, 70s. There have been sometimes three political organizations. That's happened during my period of service also. And it didn't survive. I don't think it has changed now. And I certainly believe that anyone who is forming an organization and hoping to involve in the politics has no hope of gaining electoral success. I think anyone who is doing this must have one thing in mind: to take support away from the new National Party and to help the National Democratic Congress to retain government because of personal vindictiveness or hate. Because you have some people who were with the NMP and wanted leadership. And we didn't think that they qualified, and we had a lot of reasons why they should not, because they did not demonstrate the character or honesty or integrity to lead the new National Party. And we have several reasons. A lot of it we haven't said a word, we have avoided saying much, but it will come out. It will. And we said no. So we simply did not vote for you. Immediately, you're out there bashing the NNP. That's the only thing you're doing, because the only hope is to get the NNP, to get back at the NNP and the leader. And then you run your mouth on the person whom you perceive that you should have got the support for to take over leadership in the NNP. And all of a sudden, you want to get people to say that they were involved in some criminal activity. While you join them and you did not know that before, all of a sudden they become potential criminals because you did not get what you want. And it's a story, it's clear. It's like the fox and the grapes. You wanted the grapes so bad. You did not get the grapes become sour. It's sad, but that's the nature of Grenada's politics. Some people, not really politics, that's in human nature. Sometimes it's better when you get defeated to take your licks and keep quiet, or go and do something positive instead of that. You're into mischief, and that mischief never works. I'm confident that the next election will be a straight fight between the National Democratic Congress and the new National Party. And I have no doubt that the people want to see the end of the National Democrat, at least that leadership, the present leadership of the NDC, and they will vote resoundingly for the new National Party. I have no doubt in my mind. And that is precisely what I'll be working very hard for, and I'm confident that we'll achieve this.
Well,
But something I just want the last point to make. Amanda, I've signaled that I most likely would not be contesting any election. And I think it's clear that people know this. But they can't leave me alone. I'm still the topic. Every time I say some Bob report, every time you hear some discussion, people that you don't know, have no connection with me, they don't know me, they're talking about me. You don't even know me, you never talk to me, we never had any relationship, but they have to talk about me. Keep talking about me. Make me relevant when I don't want to be relevant. Keep doing it. I love that. I love when I see, I laugh, I have fun when I see them talking about me and I don't even know them. Fellas I don't know, they're talking about me. They know me better than, and they never discuss anything. They never had any discussion. We had no relationship, but they know me better than myself. Interesting. So I repeat, the grape story. The grapes is sour.
well, I was about to wrap up.
You can wrap up still over there.
But before we go, um, Before we go, Doc, again, you've been in service for about at least 40 years, right? Anything you would like to say to the Grenadian people, your Northwest people?
No, well, they know I've been constantly there, and I'll be there. And as long as I have the breath of life, I would continue to be making a contribution. You don't have to be in a particular position to make the contribution. If you love people, long before I was involved in national politics, I was making contribution to my country. As you know, I was a Windward Island cricketer. I captained Grenada's cricket team. I was captain of Windward Leeward youth team, going all over the Caribbean. So I was well known. I was teaching at Presentation College and the academic side, and one know my success academically. And even when I traveled, I was making contribution here in sports and development. That's why the West Indies Cricket Board had used my expertise. Is West Indies cricketers, all the top cricketers in the Caribbean knew me when they had a difficulty. They called me because of my involvement. Because I love people, and I love sports is about people, politics is about people, education is about people. So I'm not in politics for myself. This is about service, because I left a very comfortable life, as you know. If I was interested in material things, I would not be in Grenada. I gave up enormous amount of wealth and opportunity in the United States to be back home. Some people came into politics to make money or to get more money. It was the complete opposite with me. If I'd stayed in the United States, I wouldn't have to be working, still looking for a livelihood, as I'm doing still. I would not have to be doing this. But I'm a happy man. I'm at peace, and I love what I'm doing.
So, officially, that's all the time we have for today. Guys, remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel.
Show them